Welcome everyone. It is my pleasure to have you all here with us today. Thank you for joining for this webinar in where we will discuss about key considerations for an appropriate scope for all management systems. My name is Erita, Rexhepi, the Portfolio Marketing Manager for Continuity Resilience and Service Management. The presenter of this webinar will be Opeyemi Onifade. He is an IT governance professional and management consultant. He has led teams to successfully comply with and certify to standards including ISO 27001 and ISO 20000 in the last 36 months. He is also an accredited trainer and consultant for COBIT 5. At the end of this presentation, we will have question and answer session, and we would love to hear from you. Therefore, I highly encourage you to submit any question or comment you may have during this webinar in the chat box of your control panel. Opeyemi will answer to all your questions accordingly at the end of the presentation. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you will get insightful information from this webinar. Please, Opeyemi, you may start the presentation.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for making time to attend this webinar. Key considerations for an appropriate scope for all management systems. As Erita mentioned, my name is Opeyemi Onifade, and I run a consultancy out of Abuja in Nigeria. Before setting it up in 2011, I've worked with some leading consulting organizations in Nigeria as a senior consultant and also as a chief information security officer with a government IT company. These are my contact information, and you can feel free to get in touch with me if you want any information regarding this presentation. So today we'll be looking at scoping considerations for an appropriate scope for all management systems, or key considerations for an appropriate scope for all management systems. And the introduction has been done. We'll look at an overview of the new standardized structure for current and future management systems standards. There's a new new prescription by ISO with respect to current and future management system standards, and that's what we'll be looking at. The standard or the specification requires all management system standards to follow a particular format, and that helps to be able to integrate properly all the management systems no matter their nature. So we'll be looking at the relevant clauses in the new standardized structure for the future and current management system standards, and then we'll go to the main issue for today, the key considerations in scoping all management standards, drawing inspiration from the requirements as depicted in the new structure. All right, so I work for Afenoid. Afenoid has been in operation for over 5 years as an indigenous IT governance consulting and training firm. We have assisted organizations to conform to IT-related standards and frameworks since we started, ISO 27001, 20000, COBIT 5, and all the other IT-related standards. We provide services to clients in southern, eastern, and western part of Africa, and Afenoid is proudly a member of PCB group of partners. Afenoid, our purpose is to empower organizations and equip professionals. We try to be the one that provide respected wisdom and trusted source of advice to our clients, and we put a lot of value on respect and trust for our stakeholders. Our core principles around respect and trust. So that's about Afenoid and my background in a little while. Now, the new ISO management system requirements came up in April 2012. Since that time, all new and revised management system standards must conform to new rules regarding the structure and content of management system standards. And if you are familiar with ISO 27001 2013 and ISO 22301, you will realize that both standards, from clauses 4 to 10, have similar structure. It's because of the adherence to this rule that was released in April 2012. These rules are documented in Annex SL, Appendix 3 to the ISO Directives Part 1, Consolidated ISO Supplement, referred to as Annex SL for short. So Annex SL is the rule that guides the creation of new and future, current and future management system standards requirements. So in essence, Annex SL specifies the high-level structure, the identical core text, common terms, and core definitions that form the nucleus of future and revised ISO management system requirement standards. So individual management system standards add additional discipline-specific requirements as required. So for instance, 27001, in addition to the high-level structure and identical core text, so you have information security specific requirements. For ISO 22301, you have societal security or business continuity management systems specific requirements. For ISO 9001, you have quality management specific requirements. The benefit of these new ISO management system requirements as follows. One, the common wording of the standards benefits an organization that wishes to have a single management system, which is the way to go when you have multiple management systems implemented in an organization. So for example, if you have ISO 27001 already implemented for information security management system, and you are considering implementing service management system or quality management system or business continuity management system, it is always a good idea to integrate the management system, because there are a number of overlapping requirements that can be implemented and integrated into the organizational way of working, as against have multiple standards that may have multiple scope and also have some conflicting requirements that requires to be harmonized. So integrating this is a good way of getting value from management system standards requirements. So in this case, the core requirements of these three standards, say for documented information, will be identically worded, and if they are identically worded, then you can implement them with the same resources and putting the same energy to them, and ensuring that the process owners and those driving the activities are able to see the correlation between the two standards or multiple standards, as the case may be. So this is the structure of the new management system standards. You have introduction, scope, normative references, terms and definitions, and then at the core of it, the clauses 4 to 10, context of the organization, leadership, planning, support, operation, performance, and improvement. And context of the organization, planning, these two clauses are very key to defining and determining and validating what the scope of the management system should be while implementing. And we are going to get into the details of that as we progress. So this is how it is, identical core text of the new management system standards, Annex SL. So you have from clause 0 to 10, and in this case you will see XSS management system representing whatever the management system is, if it's ISMS, information security management system, quality management system, business continuity management system, and so on and so forth. So you have this common structure for all new and future management system standards that will be rolled out. So let's look at some of the definitions, because one of the core reasons for the new rule is to ensure that we have common definition, common view, common idea around the terminologies, the terms that are used when management system requirements are highlighted. So we want to look at some of the core definitions, Annex SL definitions. Management system. A management system is defined as a set of interrelated or interacting elements of an organization to establish policies, objectives, and processes to achieve those objectives. So management system means management system for all management system standards requirements. organization is referred to as a person or group of people that has its own functions with responsibilities, authorities, and relationships to achieve its objectives. Excuse me. So top management is a person or group of people who directs and controls an organization at the highest level. Policy refers to intentions and direction of an organization as formally expressed by its top management. Objective refers to results to be achieved. Process is a set of related or interacting activities which transforms inputs into outputs. Documented information. Before the Annex SL definitions, what you have in previous standards, you have documents and records. But in this case, in the new definition, you have what we call documented information, which is referred to as information required to be controlled and maintained by an organization and the medium on which it is contained. So this includes documents and records, documents the intention that the organization have to perform certain activities or achieve certain objectives, and the records, which talks about the achievement of those objectives. So you are looking at the future and the past. While the documents are future focused, the records are historical information, and together these are considered to be documented information. So there are specific requirements for documented information throughout the new management system requirements. Interested party, which is the preferred term for the new rule, and is also called stakeholder, admitted term, but it's usually considered interested party is the preferred term. And this refers to the person or organization that can be affected by or perceive themselves to be affected by a decision or activity. So somebody who has any form of interest, could be interest around benefit realization or risk optimization or resource optimization. Anybody who has this interest is considered to be an interested party or a stakeholder. So a requirement is a need or expectation that is stated, generally implied or obligatory. You know that when we talk about standard requirements or management system standard requirements, these are all these criteria which forms the basis for conformity assessment. Effectiveness is defined as extent to which planned activities are realized and planned results are achieved. And risk is the effect of uncertainty on objectives. That is the general definition, effect of uncertainty on objectives. And competence is the ability to apply knowledge and skills to achieve intended results, and performance is measurable results. Outsource means an arrangement where an external organization performs part of an organization's function or process. Monitoring is about determining the status of a system, a process, or an activity. So in all the management system standards, the new one and the future requirements, monitoring means the same, determining the status of a system, a process, or an activity. And measurement is about a process to determine a value. Audit is a systematic, independent, and documented process for obtaining audit evidence and evaluating it objectively to determine the extent to which the audit criteria are fulfilled. So the audit criteria really is the requirements in that specific standards. Conformity, of course, means fulfillment of a requirement. Non-conformity is non-fulfillment of a requirement. Correction is action to eliminate a detected non-conformity. And corrective action is action to eliminate the cause of a non-conformity and to prevent recurrence. All right, these are further emphasize this concept around correction, corrective action. As against, we used to have concepts around preventive action. So correction and corrective action are action to eliminate the cause of a non-conformity and to prevent recurrence. So there's prevention in corrective action. And continual improvement is recurring activity to enhance performance. Now, beyond Annex SL, there are certain definitions that are not in that rule. And the ISO standards, the Annex SL committee decided to refer to Oxford English Dictionary for other definitions, with respect to terms that will be used in the new management system standard requirements. So you have terms like issue, which is an important topic or problem for debate or discussion. As we go forward, we see why this is important definition to note, because you are required to also document the issues that the organization needs to look after with respect to management systems standard implementation. Scope, which is at the core of today's webinar, is the extent of the area or subject matter that something deals with or to which it is relevant. Activity, a thing that a person or group does or has done. Function, an activity that is natural to or the purpose of a person or thing. And status is the situation at a particular time during a process. Plan, a detailed proposal for doing or achieving something. So let's look at scope. Scope is defined as the extent of the area or subject matter that something deals with or to which it is relevant. So it's the extent of the area or subject matter that something deals with or to which it is relevant. It fits into the organization ways of doing things and focuses on activities that help the organization to achieve its objectives and not hinder them. So it's important that when we are defining scope, when one is defining the scope for management system standard requirements implementation, the focus should be on the way the organization works already. What are the core business processes of the organization? You want to ensure that the scope is defined in such a way that it integrates and enables the activities of the organization without hindering the organizational objectives. These are some of the qualities or attributes of a good management system scope. The scope should be as simple as possible. It should be understandable. When we say simple, simple means that it is not complicated in terms of ability of those who are looking at it or interested parties to understand what is being expressed. Be understandable without detailed knowledge of the organization. So somebody external to the organization can be able to understand what the scope is all about. From the certificate of conformity, for example, one should be able to tell what the organizational scope for the management system refers to. It should also be worded so that any exclusions are clear, because when we talk about scope, scope sets boundaries, and wherever we have boundaries, that means there are exclusions. All right, there are things that are not within the boundary of the management system scope. Those exclusions need to be clear. It needs to be clear in terms of for example, we talk about the physical location that pertains to that management system standard. The scope should also include enough information for use in conformity assessment, which is the main driver for most conformity implementation to management system standard requirements. You want to conduct, most organizations want to conduct an assessment to determine whether they are fit to be certified against those standards or not. So the scope is a major requirement when implementing for the purpose of conformity assessment. The scope should stand alone and not refer to other sources. Note that only evidence based on the scope of the management system is considered during a conformity assessment, and the implementer or the consultant working on a management system implementation should keep note of this. So let's look at relevant clauses for scope definition requirement from Annex SL. We want to look at some of the clauses. I'm highlighting clauses 4 and 6 from the Annex SL clauses that helps with scope definition of a management system requirement standard. The first one is the context of the organization. Everything must be done within the context of the organization. It is important that the management system that is being implemented helps to enhance what the organization objectives are. It should help to drive and deliver the strategic intentions of the organization and not to hinder them. So for this to happen, the organizational context must be well established through understanding the organization and its context, understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties, because every organization exists to deliver value to interested parties. And it's important that those needs and expectations of interested parties are well understood, documented, and put into consideration when implementation is being done. Then determining the scope of the management system, XYZ or XXS management system, depending on what particular management system is in consideration. And that is why the Annex SL is relevant to all management systems, because they are all structured this way. So if it's a quality management system, we need to determine the scope of the quality management system, or the scope of the information security management system, or the scope of the societal security management system, or the scope of the quality management system. And we also talk about the management system itself. And planning clause 6 refers to actions to address risk and opportunities. We talked about issues the other time, and I asked you to please note that this definition from Oxford English Dictionary is very important. So actions to address risk and opportunities. There are a lot of issues that may translate to risks and opportunities for the organization, and the management system standard requirements going forward requires that there must be actions must be stated on how risks and opportunities will be addressed, and we are going to look at some of them, and then objectives and planning to achieve them, which is about part of the requirements for the implementation of the management system. As you know, clauses, or as you may know rather, clauses 4 to 10 are mandatory requirements, and no exclusion is accepted for a conformity assessment. So these clauses, as expressed in Annex SL, must be fully complied to. There's no non-conformity is acceptable for you to claim conformity to these standards. So it's very important that implementers understand, and auditors as well, or consultants understand that these clauses 4 to 10 are very important. I'm referring to the clauses here from clauses 4 to 10, or the requirements here for specific standards must be clearly adhered to. So now let's look at the influencers. I call them scope influencers. What are the requirements that influence the scope definition and validation for new and future management system standards requirements? So clause 4.1, subclause 4.1, clause 4 talks about understanding the organization and its context. The subclause 4.1 states that the organization shall determine external and internal issues that are relevant to its purpose and that affects its ability to achieve the intended outcomes of its management system. So this is very important, that the organization understands external and internal issues, and these must be documented. These issues are matters that are relevant to its purpose and that affects its ability to achieve the intended outcomes of his XSS management system. It could be information security management system, quality management system, or as the case may be. So in accordance with Oxford English Dictionary, an issue is an important topic or problem for debate or discussion. So that's an issue, something that is worth our consideration, could be for debate or discussion. So an organization's consideration of issues is not therefore confined to only a consideration of problems. So it's not just about problems, something that is important, that is worth focusing on. It concerns all matters that could affect the well-running of the management system, and this may have a positive as well as a negative effect on the management system. So it's not just, when we say issue, we are not just looking at problems, we are looking at all matters that concerns or affects or impacts the organizational purposes and intents. So all issues are likely to change over time. Issues change over time. Risk factors, for example, change over time, and such as the social and cultural environments. Some change faster, some more slowly than others. So it is important that we keep a watchful eye on such changes. So as part of the documented information for a management system, the issues must be reviewed within some certain periodic schedule that must have been predetermined. So a good test for relevancy, how do we know whether an issue is relevant or not? A good test for relevancy is to ask the following two questions. Does the issue affect the ability of the management system to meet the requirements of the management system standard? Does the issue arise because of the management system and affect the ability of the organization to meet its objectives? So these are two issues to consider. And these are some of the examples of issues. We look at social and cultural, political, legal, regulatory, financial, technology, economic, natural and competitive environment, whether international, national, regional, or local. Key drivers and trends that have an impact on the objectives of the organization, relationships with and perceptions and values of external stakeholders or interested parties, governance, organizational structure, roles and accountabilities, policies, objectives and the strategies that are in place to achieve them, capabilities understood in terms of resources and knowledge, relationships with perceptions and values of the organization and the organization's culture, information systems, information flows and decision making, processes both formal and informal, standards, guidelines and models adopted by the organization, and form and extent of contractual relationships. So these are some of the examples of issues that needs to be debated or needs to be considered with respect to their impact on a specific or an integrated management system. The requirements that are that the organization shall determine interested parties that are relevant to the management system and the requirements of these interested parties. Interested parties are likely to include past, existing, and potential customers. So even past customers are interested parties because there may be some warranties that needs to be addressed. There may be some contractual obligations that still may be in force. Past, existing, and potential suppliers, regulatory authorities, and other parts of the organization, the management system is scoped to be within the sub-organization. Interested party requirements are likely to be documented in laws, regulations, and contracts. A requirement can be a need or expectation that is generally implied. You may not have a service level agreement with a customer, but every customer expects quality service, whether stated or unstated. Determining the scope. Subclause 4.3 say that in order to establish the scope of the management system, it shall determine the boundaries and applicability of the management system. The subclause also states that when determining the scope, the organization shall consider the external and internal issues that are referred to in 4.1 and 4.2 and the requirements that are referred to in 4.2. So these are the key considerations when you are defining the scope of a management system or for management system. You need to understand the external and internal issues, and you need to also look at the requirements as we have looked at in clause 4.2 or subclause 4.2. It is important to realize that the scope of the management system is not the same as the scope of certification audit, and is generally far wider. I'm running against time, so I'm going to run quickly. Clause 6 talks about actions to address risk and opportunities. The phrase risk and opportunities was introduced into the identical core text. We're talking about the identical core text in Annex SL, because disciplines such as quality not only concern risk management, but also exploiting of opportunities. So the requirement concerns actions to address risk and opportunities. Specific management system standards may have additional clauses either in this section or in clause 8 to deal with discipline-specific risk assessment requirements. So boundaries and applicabilities in scoping is a reference to the extent of the organization's operational processes that are relevant to information security, for example, in the case of ISMS. For example, if people work from home or the organization uses an internet service provider servers to host an online catalog, then all of these are candidates for inclusion within the scope of the management system. All right, Erita, would you like to take us through the accredited PCB certifications?
Thank you, Opeyemi, for this excellent presentation. Before we proceed with the question and answer session, I would like to inform all the attendees that PCB provides accredited certification for ISO 9001, ISO 14001, ISO 22301, and ISO 27001. A PCB certificate will demonstrate your dedication in implementing and managing these processes and frameworks, and most importantly, you will be recognized worldwide. For more information, please visit our website, pcb.com/certification. We will now go with the first question that one attendee wrote. Is it possible for a company to have a single scope to cover its BCMS, quality, and HSSE management systems? If so, can you please provide some insights on how this can be structured?
Okay, thank you. The straight answer is yes. It is possible to have one scope. There is a guidance provided by BSI called PAS 99, PAS 99, which provide guidance on integrating management system, and you may want to refer to that guideline. What I would like to mention is that you can focus on the business processes or the business objectives that the management system is meant to support. Every management system that is put in place is there to help the organization to achieve its objectives. So that's why it's always good to start with the objectives of the organization. What are the goals of the enterprise, and how would the management system that is being implemented help to further those goals? So the answer is yes, and if you focus on the goals of the organization, the objectives of the organization, and how the standards. For example, I like to say that information security management system, for example, when we're implementing, the business goal for that could be customer retention. And someone will ask, how is information security related to customer retention? But it's important that the goals or the objectives of the management system be defined in business terms. And that is how we get value from these standards and other frameworks, best practice frameworks. So in a short while, so that's what I would like to say, that yes, you can integrate the management system, and the Annex SL has made it easier, especially for new standards that have been implemented or that have been created in this pattern.
Thank you, Opeyemi, for this answer. Yeah. We will now go with the next question. One attendee wrote, is Annex SL new for all management systems?
Say that again, please. I didn't get that. Hello?
Yes?
Sorry,
should I repeat the question again?
Please repeat the question.
Yes, of course. Is Annex SL new for all management systems?
Yes. It was released in 2012, and all management systems that have been revised or reviewed since then follows the requirements. So, for example, ISO 27001:2013, which came out after 2012, follows that pattern.
Thank you for this answer. We will now go with the next question. What is an integrated management system?
Okay, thank you. An integrated management system is one that includes or harmonizes multiple management system requirements. For example, you have ISO 27001 is a management system for information security. You have ISO 20000, which is a management system for IT services or services generally. You have quality management system. When you integrate all of these management systems, into one to have one focus, one implementation. That is what you have. You have an integrated management system. In other words, you are looking at overlapping requirements, meeting them together for all the standards. For instance, in ISO 27001, you have service continuity, you have continuity requirements, and then in business continuity, you also have that. You can use the business continuity requirements in 22301 to meet the information system, to meet the requirements in ISO 27001. You also have standards like ISO 27013 that helps you to integrate ISO 27001 and ISO 20000. So you can look out for that, 27013, which shows you how to integrate 27001 Information Security Management System and ISO 20000 for IT Service Management System. Thank you.
Thank you, Opeyemi, for this interesting answer. Because of the time limitation, we will go with the last question. What are the benefits of integration?
Okay, one benefit of integration is that you are able to optimize resources. It takes time, effort, and a lot of budgets to be able to implement one standard. So implementing one after the other is not a very efficient way to go. If an organization can decide to look at multiple standards that are relevant to their strategic objectives and then harmonize them, so you have a single effort. In fact, you can spend less than, you can save about 50% in terms of budgetary provision on consultancy or on gap remediation measures. So in terms of resource optimization, that is one value that you get from integrating. Another value that you get is that you ensure that the processes are not conflicting. For example, in ISO 20000, you have incident management. In ISO 27001, you also have information security incident management. No, the incident management can be one process in the organization with specific categorization around security or quality of service. So it helps to harmonize and to consolidate processes in such a way that it is aligned to organizational objectives and not hindering business processes within the organization. So those are the two main benefits. And it also, integrated management system also help you to have an holistic approach to managing to management system, because you cover more grounds. You are not just focusing on information security, you're also focusing on related issues like service management, like continuity management, like quality management, and all of these best practices help to be able to further enhance business performance. Thank you.
Once again, thank you, Opeyemi, for this excellent and informative presentation. And I want to thank all the attendees as well who have joined us today. We hope you enjoyed this webinar. Please be informed that this webinar is recorded and we will upload in our official YouTube channel and in our website pcd.com. Also, we will upload the slides in our SlideShare account where you can view all the slides as well. Goodbye, everyone, and I wish you all a good day.